Well, here we go again, world. Um, I chose to do this one kind of after uh, I did the first one in dealing with my baby's mom, Austria, because this is more of the continuation of the one that I shared about her. And this one is dealing with there my son. Uh, as you as I shared in the first piece of I treated them like nothing part one. This is I treated them like nothing part two. This one deals with my son's life. After sharing all I shared about him making it, being my only son, there was a lot that went along with his life. He was a normal pregnancy. 9 months. He throughout her pregnancy, she didn't have any complications. There was no sign that anything was going to be wrong with him. Normal kid, as far as all the checkups and everything was good. But lo and behold, he was born, normal birth, everything was normal. And I took care of him at night and she took care of him in the daytime. We had split shifts. And this particular night, it was on his 5th day being alive. I was feeding him his bottle that night, and he vomited. You know what I'm saying? I'm laying there, I'm feeding him his bottle, and like, bleh, you know what I'm saying? This big vomit came out of his mouth, and his mouth stretched as big as it would go. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like something out of a movie. I mean, like his whole mouth was completely wide open, and it just spurted out. It wasn't like a milk burp or anything like that. And I instantly had this funny feeling. I said, whoa. I said, oh no, God, all I done been through as far as to have him, I prayed and prayed and prayed and asked for you to allow me to have this son. Lord, what is going on? I prayed that night, He did the little vomit and he was okay, But deep down inside, I had an idea something was wrong. This was a scary moment for me. I like, man, that wasn't no normal throw up. You know what I'm saying? I knew something wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? Just that instinct within. I'm like, man, something is happening. So throughout that night, I held him, kept him, close to me. I didn't even sleep in the bed with him, We slept right on the couch. I didn't put him in the crib or nothing. I held him the whole night. He's breathing and everything throughout the whole night. He didn't wake up anymore, didn't cry anymore, none of that. So the next morning, the sun, it was about daybreak, and it was kind of weird that he didn't wake up anymore. So I'm thinking like, whoa, what's going on, So I kissed him on the lips and like, Little Calvin, because that was his name, I said, Little Calvin, wake up, good morning. And no response. Oh shit, what's going on here? So shake him, tap him a little bit. No response. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Went to praying a little more, God, what's going on here? I got to the point where only thing I knew next was to open his eyes. And that was the part that scared the living daylights out of me, Lifted his eyelids, and his eyelids were like, his eyes were moving like this. Oh my God. Instantly, I'm like, call my baby mama. I see, hey, come check the look out. Something ain't right. He ain't waking up. You know what I'm saying? His eyes are like he in the daze. I'm like, what's going on? You know, I really don't know what's happening. So she came in the room and she looked at him and like, whoa. So I went downstairs to one of our neighbors, and I went to her and I was like, I need you to come take a look at my son. You know, something ain't right. He's not waking up. I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I need some help. I need some answers right now. And she came down and she was like, she picked him up and she's like, hey, he's got to go to the hospital. And I'm like, oh no. It wasn't going to be something I could just snap out of, think it was a dream. I'm like, man. I said, Lord, what happened? You know, I prayed and prayed and prayed and asked you to give me my son. But why did I have to go through all this? 5 days old, only kid. So she grabbed my son up and they didn't wait on the ambulance. They jumped in the car and they're off. And there I was laying there on the couch, the same couch that me and my son had slept on that night, and I was lost. I went into a deep state of prayer, cried my heart out, and I knew that things weren't gonna be good. You know, I had no clue to how in depth or how hard this was gonna be for me, but I knew something wasn't right. I didn't know how I was gonna get through it. I didn't know how he was gonna come out, and I was at the mercy of God. They took him to the hospital, and after we found out that he wasn't going to be released from the hospital, they called me and said, you need to get up here. And once I got to the hospital, there my five-day-old son was laying in the incubator, breathing like, I'm talking about like his lung about to bust out his chest. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? Instantly, I definitely didn't know what to do at all, man. All I could do is pray and ask God to help me through this, man. To see my only son laying right there in the incubator, just breathing hard, just like fighting for his last breath. I'm like, whoa, can it get any worse? You know, throughout this time, I got real spiritual. I mean, I'm making promises to God like unbelievable. I put everything on the line. I couldn't take this. I didn't know exactly what was gonna happen. I'm like, God, please help me through this. I'll do whatever. I made promises about this, promises about that. I needed help. And I knew that he was the only one that was going to be able to help us get through this. They finally found out what was wrong after him just breathing uncontrollably, because they were running tests. They didn't know what was going on. So for a day, one whole 24 hours, he just sat in the incubator, breathing hard. Because they how they run these tests. I'm like, what is going on? So what they found out was he had a disorder where his body wasn't filtering the ammonia out. What we pee out the body is poison, and his body was full of the toxins. 1 in 50,000 kids catch it. It's a genetic disorder where I had one gene and my baby mama had the other gene. 1 in 50,000 kids catch it. They normally die in the womb. And all this hit me. And I'm like, man, come on. You gotta be kidding me. What are my chances of me not having any kids? Me figuring, praying, asking God to give me a son. Why did I have to have one with all these complications? Why? It wasn't no time to be asking why. It was time to ask God to help me get through this. Because I still didn't know the outcome. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know his state, if he was going to live, if he was going to die. Um, and here I am, still using before this situation hit me. Drinking, smoking weed, sniffing coke. And, I made a lot of promises about what I wouldn't do once I, help me through this, God, and I ain't gonna do this, I ain't gonna do that. I mean, I put it all on the line. And, beginning stage of what I was about to go through, I'm gonna share that in part 2, part 3, because I still hadn't came to grips with what I had done to his mother, and now what I'm about to go through with my son. Scary, unbelievable. I mean, I thought it was punishment from God. I'm like, God, why would you punish me like this? Sometimes you wonder how God punishes us. And that's all I could figure was this was my punishment for the way I treated his mom. And, you never know what happens when things are out of your hand. And this was definitely out of my hand. God allowed me to go through this. As I go into part 3, it gets a little deeper. I just thank you for allowing me to share this part. To be continued.